I dated my first love Leela for 7 years. In the end, she said she wanted to break up. She wanted to pursue a better life. I respected her decision. Later, when we met again, she was holding her fiancé's hand and said to me, "Jason, I'm getting married next month. I would like to invite you to be my best man." I could tell she was trying to make me uncomfortable. I smiled and politely declined. "I'm sorry, I won't be available next month," but she wouldn't give up. She stood in front of me and said, "Didn't you say you wanted to see the woman you love in a wedding dress?" I looked into the distance. That girl was patiently waiting for me. I felt a warmth in my heart. Yes, the one I loved the most. I had already seen her 3 years ago. She turned her head, following my gaze. Her face suddenly turned pale. I had been busy all day. I rushed to attend my high school classmate's wedding without even changing my clothes. There are a lot of weddings today. I searched for a parking spot for quite a while but couldn't find one. In the end, I had to park in a lot 100 meters away. Then I walked over. Old classmates saw me arrive. They all came over to greet me warmly. "Jason, where have you been working these past few years? I heard you studied physical education in college. Are you a gym teacher now? It's been a long time since I last saw you. You're still the same. Why don't you dress up a bit? After all, it's someone else's wedding. This isn't very appropriate. Oh, Leela is here too, and she brought her fiancé. I thought you two were still together after all these years. Who knew she would bring her fiancé today?" After Leela said that, she walked over holding a man's hand. She looked me up and down. "Long time no see. You still look so unenergetic. You seem a bit dazed. Are you staying up late playing games again?" I don't understand why she talks about the past with her ex in front of her fiancé, but she is right. I really haven't been sleeping well lately. I've been too busy with work. I'm planning to take a vacation next month. I'm working overtime every day now. The branch office is being renovated. I still have to find time to monitor the progress. Today, I had to go check because the renovation company called me. That's why I hurriedly threw on some clothes and left. I'm so busy every day that I can't even sleep properly. It's normal for my face to look pale. Long time no see. I don't feel like chatting with her. I just want to find a quiet place to sit for a while. I still have things to do later, but I just sat down in the corner. A group of people gathered around again. They filled the table and started showing off how great they are. When the event finally started, everyone finally looked at the stage for a moment. Then I felt a little more relaxed. Leela took the bride's bouquet. She happily said she will get married next month. The people around began to liven up again. "Old classmates, long time no see. You used to be quite talkative. Why have you become so quiet now? Everyone goes through tough times. We all understand. Don't keep shutting yourself off. We were looking forward to celebrating your wedding with Leela, but then you broke up. That's not surprising. Who doesn't want to find someone with good conditions to live with?" Leela's fiancé is dressed quite well now, although he looks ordinary, but he clearly comes from a good financial background. We just chatted casually for a bit. He said he does business. Making 400,000 to 500,000 a year is easy for him. I didn't want to respond. I glanced at the time. I just casually murmured "Amham." I was replying to a message. Leela and her fiancé walked over. They looked at the empty seat beside me and said, "Let's sit here, Jason. You don't mind?" "Right, whatever, to be honest. I'm really hungry right now. I just want to finish dinner quickly and get back to work. I really don't want to talk to her." 2 years ago, she thought I didn't make much money. Her civil servant parents looked down on me. She said she was under too much pressure and insisted on breaking up. So I agreed. I heard she got together with someone else less than a month after we broke up. She's with a businessman now. The two families are old acquaintances. 7 years of feelings are indeed hard to forget, but I've come to terms with it. I was lost in thought while eating. Suddenly, someone spilled red wine on me. The cold liquid snapped me back to reality. Leela's fiancé was looking at me with a smile. "Sorry, I accidentally slipped. Are you okay?" "Oh, I forgot to introduce myself earlier. I'm Leela's fiancé, Michael. I'm in business. There is a 600 square meter store on East Street. East Street is the busiest pedestrian street in the city. The rent for shops there is particularly high. Having such a large storefront is indeed great. At least that's what I used to think. But now, I don't care at all. I'm wiping the water off my body with a tissue. Leela turned to look at me. Seeing that I didn't say anything, she said, Jason, you're still the same. You ignore others when they talk to you. Your clothes and pants aren't worth much. Later, let Michael drive you to buy a couple of nice outfits. Her tone was like she was shooing away a beggar. I felt like laughing as I listened. She used to always say I was like a block of wood, not adaptable, not mature enough. It made her feel very frustrated. Now she's found a fiancé. She splashed wine on someone without even saying sorry. Instead, she blamed me for not knowing manners. To put it bluntly, she just finds me displeasing. Lack of money is the biggest mistake. She wants to be a wealthy lady. Just cooking and spending money at home all day is enough. I can't meet her expectations. So no matter how well I treat her, it's all in vain. Whether my pants are expensive or not doesn't matter. But now they've gotten wet. I want to dry them off to feel more comfortable. Is there anything wrong with that? I'm just stating the facts. But she suddenly had a look of realization. Her lips curled into a smug smile. I understand now. Breaking up makes you unhappy. You're still angry with me. Michael and I are openly together. You can blame me, but don't involve unrelated people. Jason, you're already 27. If you don't improve now, it will be even harder in the future. I'm only advising you out of past affection. That's why I said a few more words. I admit her fiancé is indeed very generous. Even after all this, she still acts so arrogantly as if she doesn't care. Leela, forget it. Men need time to grow, especially those who are not talented. Don't even mention 27. Even at 57, it's still the same. This meal is rather dull. I have to leave after finishing my meal quickly. Michael put down his bowl and chopsticks and said, Why the hurry? Does your workplace not even have a lunch break? Even our security guards earn $4,000 a month and still get a lunch break. I don't want to say much. I'm leaving now. You all take your time eating. Someone is trying to keep me here. The bus should be quite crowded now. Let's sit a bit longer. After the class reunion tomorrow, everyone might not get a chance to see each other again. Right, let's stay a little longer. Where do you work? I can take you with me in a taxi later. You won't have to spend money on the bus. I know these people aren't genuinely interested in chatting with me. They just think I'm poor. They're just showing off a bit. No need. I drove here myself. Leela stood up in surprise and said, Jason, how did you learn to lie now? Everyone saw that you walked here. No car, no car. There's no need to put on a front, Jason replied. Michael drove over in a Highlander. There's a lot of space. I can drop you off on the way. The others were a bit surprised to hear that. Everyone has just graduated. No support from home. My salary is just enough for daily living. A Highlander that costs just over $300,000 is already great for them. Not bad, Michael. I just like big cars. Can you give me a ride? I'm also heading to East Street. Michael enjoyed everyone's compliments. He lifted his head and said, Of course, you can. I like straightforward people. If it's on the way, let's go together. His seat is blocking my way. I'm waiting for him to move, but he seems to be doing it on purpose. He leisurely picked up the cup and took a sip. Then he spoke again. Everyone has nearly finished eating. Shall we leave together? It's quite boring. Michael's Highlander is parked across from the hotel. It's just across the street. Very eye-catching. I walked straight past them, towards where I parked, but was called back by Leela. Jason, how long are you going to keep pretending? Is it really that hard to admit you're not capable? I turned back to ask her. You think driving a Highlander means you have skills? She was taken aback by my question. She was completely stunned. The person wanting a ride noticed the atmosphere was off. Michael's expression was also unpleasant. He quickly tried to ease the tension. Some people just criticize what they can't have. Michael, don't take it to heart. Jason, hurry and take the bus. Remember to come to tomorrow's class reunion. The class reunion is arranged at a banquet hall near the school. Today, I had a meeting at the company. I'll go straight there after work. I found there were still quite a few empty spots in the parking lot. When I arrived, the group from yesterday's wedding was just at the entrance. They were chatting around Michael. Leela wore a dress today. She frowned when she saw me. She walked over to ask, Where did you get that suit? I noticed a moment of surprise in her eyes. When we were together before, She said she liked a sunny style of dressing, so I always wore casual clothes. I've never worn such formal clothes. She and I, who have been in a relationship for 7 years, the freshness had long faded away. She never dresses up at home. When going out with me, she just casually puts on a t-shirt. But today she is so well put together. Thinking about this really makes me feel uncomfortable. She probably always thinks I'm not good enough for her. Not only do I earn less, my family background is also poorer. Her parents work in government offices. While I come from a single-parent family, my mother is a retired worker and is ill in her view. Finding someone like her is already my good fortune. That's already my luck, I said calmly. It's what I bought. Someone recognized my car at a glance. They shouted in surprise. I can't be mistaken, right? You drive a Land Rover. Leela's eyes widened in surprise. Jason, how have you changed like this? You didn't have money before, but at least you were genuine. Now you're just trying to show off. You actually rented a car to pretend to be wealthy. This outfit is probably rented too, right? Michael said from the side. Buddy, don't be like that. I understand why Leela chose to be with me after breaking up with you. You might feel bad about it, but things rented with money are never truly yours. It's better to work hard and earn money. I'm planning to expand my shop. I'm short a security guard. You want to come and give it a try, Leela said. Your mother is sick. The monthly medication costs more than 1,000 yuan. Since we're all acquaintances here, I'll give you 5,000 yuan a month. A few people nearby laughed and chimed in. Jason, you really have good luck. Michael takes such good care of you. I couldn't help but laugh. Thank you so much for that. The car and clothes were both bought by me. I don't need your help with work. My only benefactor is Mrs. Thompson. If it weren't for Mrs. Thompson, I wouldn't have come to this reunion today. All my good classmates from before are out of town and didn't come back. The few people in front of me were not familiar before. Now we can't even find common ground. Mrs. Thompson saw us standing together. She walked over and smiled, asking what we were doing. Someone immediately responded, "We're helping an old classmate make money." Michael adjusted his suit. He greeted Mrs. Thompson. "Hello, Mrs. Thompson. I'm Michael, Leela's boyfriend." Mrs. Thompson looked at me in surprise. She knows that Leela and I talked for a long time. Back then, she even said, "It's rare to find a relationship like ours that has lasted from student days to marriage. You must come to our wedding, teacher." I broke up with him. Leela also came over and linked her arm with Michael's. "Mrs. Thompson, I'm getting married next month. You must come to attend." "Jason, I forgot to tell you yesterday. We want to invite you to be the best man at our wedding. Michael said he would prepare a big red envelope for you. At that time, you won't need to give a gift." I couldn't help but laugh. It's always about money. I really don't know how we got through that long relationship. Perhaps in the end, it really just became a habit. "No, I'm going abroad next month. I won't be able to attend your wedding." Leela looked at me and said, "Jason, didn't you say you wanted to see the girl you like walk down the aisle in a wedding dress with your own eyes?" I said, looking at the person who arrived late at the door. "I'm sorry, I've already seen it all. My wife has arrived." Everyone followed my gaze to Emily, who was standing at the door. She was smiling and waiting for me there. I quickly pushed Leela aside and walked over to greet her. "Didn't you say she would arrive a bit later?" She naturally took my hand and said in a playful tone, "I was afraid you would wait too long. Didn't you say you would introduce me to Mrs. Thompson?" I led her in front of Mrs. Thompson. "Teacher, this is Emily, my partner." Mrs. Thompson snapped back to reality. She grabbed Emily's hand and kept praising her beauty. With each compliment, Leela's expression grew darker. She let go of Michael and walked in front of me, questioning, "What do you mean, renting a car is one thing? He even specially found a fake wife to trick us." "Jason, there are other students in the class who are not doing well too. There's no need to put on such a show." Michael keeps staring at Emily. I'm holding back a lot of anger, but I don't want to embarrass myself in front of Mrs. Thompson. Just walk over and block his view. Emily is indeed beautiful, not in a superficial way, but with a unique elegance that comes from someone who has seen the world and is cultured. When my dad said he wanted me to marry her, I felt more insecurity rather than disgust. She is different from Leela. Leela can only be described as ordinary. Compared to Emily, she is immediately overshadowed. Everyone's reaction says it all. Leela is not convinced. I said to Emily across from me, "How much did Jason give you? I'll offer double. You should immediately distance yourself from him." Emily walked over to me with a confused look. "Honey, what happened?" I gently patted her hand and comforted her. "It's nothing major. I'll explain it to you clearly when we get home. Leela, today is the class reunion. What we had is already in the past. Don't put Mrs. Thompson in an awkward position." She said it mockingly. "You're deceiving Mrs. Thompson yourself. How can you still have the face to talk about me? You only earn $4,000 to $5,000 a month. How could you afford such an expensive suit and such a costly car? Let alone that, Emily is dressed in designer brands. It's not that she's deliberately showing off. That's just her everyday wear. But Leela doesn't see it that way. You're wearing all knockoffs, aren't you? You look decent enough. I advise you to open your eyes wider." Emily raised an eyebrow. I know she recognized me. Although our marriage is a business arrangement, we respect each other very much. We told each other everything about our past from the very beginning. We started like ordinary couples do, talking about love. She knows about my relationship with Leela. She also understands that Leela and I broke up for financial reasons. She looked at me with sympathy. "Speak to Leela. It's precisely because I see clearly. That's why I understand my husband is someone worth relying on. He respects me and cares for me. He truly loves me. I heard you broke up because you wanted to find someone wealthy. Then you've missed out on a truly good man." Leela felt both shy and angry. It's one thing for her classmates to know about her preference for wealth, now being pointed out by Mrs. Thompson face to face. She felt extremely embarrassed. Michael hugged her. He shot me a contemptuous glance. "Where did you find such a person, so rude? Could it be someone hired from a nightclub?" Suddenly, there was a loud bang. I didn't think much. I directly punched Michael down to the ground. The chair next to us was also knocked over. Everyone was stunned. They hadn't reacted yet. I charged at him again. I grabbed his collar and landed another punch. "Watch your words." Emily came over and pulled me. "Don't take it to heart, dear. Let them say what they want. It won't cost me anything. Let's not stoop to their level. It's not worth getting physical." "What did you say?" Leela suddenly pushed her away. "Jason, you're going too far, getting physical in front of so many people. I really misjudged you from the start." Michael got hit in front of everyone. He stood up to fight back. At that moment, Mrs. Thompson's daughter happened to arrive. "Miss Emily, what are you doing here?" Emily pulled me back a step. "Stay away from Michael." Then she said to her, "We're here for my husband's class reunion. What about you?" "My mom is a teacher. I'm just here to join the fun." "Mom, Miss Emily is our chairman's daughter. I mentioned her to you before. Who would have thought her husband is your student?" Mrs. Thompson's daughter is very excited. She speaks quite loudly. Everyone knows. After graduating, she joined the top domestic company, Vermont Group. She has been working there ever since. Some people say, "Isn't Vermont married to Williams?" I remember there was a lot of news about it back then, but no one has seen her husband. Emily replied, "Yes, my husband is Jason." The crowd gradually became lively. I suddenly became a rich second generation, and I have a beautiful and wealthy wife. This news surprised everyone. I thought the name Emily sounded familiar. It turns out I saw this name when I interviewed at Vermont a few years ago. I saw it at the entrance of the manager's office. So Jason is her husband. Isn't he the young master of the Williams Group? When the news of their marriage came out 2 years ago, it was said that Williams had found a long-lost heir. I really didn't expect it to be him. Wow, so that Land Rover really is his own. It's not rented. This might actually be the most ordinary one in his garage. A hint of panic flashed in Michael's eyes. He quietly stepped back to hide. That 600-square-meter shop is actually my family's. Even the mall next door belongs to us. Leela stood there as if struck by lightning. Her lips were pale. She was the one who proposed the breakup back then. So why is she looking at me like that now, as if I betrayed her? This is true. You said you would only marry me in this lifetime. I did say that back when we were in love. If we hadn't broken up, I would still think that way now, but everything has changed now. Leela, let's just let the past be the past. We won't have any contact anymore. Since you've already made your choice, then just go with what you've chosen. Emily has always respected me a lot. Even in situations like this, she wouldn't get angry. She would just quietly stand behind me and support me. It warms my heart. Pull her over to stand next to me. Now I have the love of my life. I'm really happy. Leela looked like she had been hit hard. She slumped into the chair beside her. The classmates who always said I wasn't good enough were silent now. The beloved Michael seemed overshadowed. She found an excuse to leave in a hurry. Leela was left to face everyone's gossip alone. When she went to the restroom, she even heard a few people talking behind her back. I never expected Jason to have his day. Leela must be regretting it now. Yeah, who would have thought he used to be in a bad situation? Now he's become a wealthy man, and he married a beautiful and talented girl, not just Leela. I regret it too now. If I had known, I shouldn't have been so absolute yesterday. If I had maintained a good relationship with him, it wouldn't have been hard to get into those two big companies. What's Michael's small company worth? He even wanted me to be an agent. That really doesn't fit. That's how people are. When you're in trouble, everyone comes to bully you. Once you succeed, everyone becomes friendly. I came out of the restroom. I ran into Leela at the corner of the banquet hall. She stopped me, wouldn't let me leave, with red eyes. She stared at me and asked, "Jason, you lied to me. You always say you love me, but you won't even tell me the truth about your family." I let out a cold laugh. "What should I tell you? Didn't I already say my dad doesn't think much of you? She always said her parents looked down on me for my job. She never wanted to take me to meet her parents." I ran into her on the street. Clearly, we knew each other, but she wanted me to pretend I didn't know her. I couldn't go up to greet her. Her parents acted as if they didn't see me. I never said anything. Actually, my dad also opposes us being together. He even said that if I insisted on not breaking up, he would sever ties with me. My parents' marriage lasted only 3 years. Later, they divorced due to incompatibility. My dad remarried the boss's daughter right after the wedding. He became a son-in-law by marriage. At that time, my mom had just divorced and found out she was pregnant due to health considerations. She chose to give birth to me. To support me, she worked in a factory. She did that for decades. 3 years ago, she was diagnosed with kidney disease. She controlled the disease with medication. After retiring due to illness, her salary was only enough for daily expenses. There was no money for better treatment. At that time, my dad came to find me. He had no other children. He wanted me to return to him, but the condition was that I had to break up with Leela. Not only did he want me to enter into a business marriage, he also felt that Leela's proud parents worked within the system, but it's really not that impressive. At that time, I was still thinking about being with Leela. Moreover, my mom also disagreed with me interacting with my dad, so I didn't agree. The year I broke up with Leela, my mother's health was getting worse, so I had to go to my dad for help. Although my mom didn't agree, but I still accepted the marriage with Emily. This way my mom could get better treatment. No more hard work for her. Looking back now, I'm really glad I went to my dad at that time. Otherwise, I might have missed out on such a wonderful wife like Emily. Leela, your family looks down on me. Speaking of which, your parents are just ordinary employees. They might be considered well off in a typical family, but compared to my family, they're far behind. Leela's lips trembled. "Jason, I'm pushing you to succeed for your own good. You want to deliver takeout forever. If I don't push you a bit, how would you ever strive for success? What's wrong with delivering takeout? That's also money I've worked hard to earn. My monthly income isn't less than Dad's. Why aren't you so picky when it comes to spending money? To put it bluntly, you just think I'm poor. You look down on me. There's no need to speak so grandly. Just say it. I feel like the pent-up frustration I've had for years has finally been released. I feel so much lighter. At that time, I just wanted to comfort her. I didn't want to give up on this relationship easily. Every time I heard her say it was because of me, she always argued with her parents. I would tell her that I would definitely work hard. I would hand over all the money I earned to her to manage. In fact, the pressure I was under was no less than hers. I was also very distressed. The feeling of not being recognized by my parents and loved ones is really difficult. So when she suggested breaking up, I was both sad and somewhat relieved, thinking of this. I just walked away. Emily was still waiting for me to go back together, after taking a few steps. A loud bang suddenly came from behind. It sounded like something had shattered, and Leela's painful cries. But I didn't look back. These matters are no longer my concern. The class reunion has ended. My life is back on track. Every day I just run between home and work. I'm just waiting to take Emily abroad next month to relax a bit. That day, my mom suddenly called. She said Leela came to our house looking for me, and she threatened not to leave if she couldn't see me. My mom has always lived in the old house. No matter what, she refuses to move in with us, so I hired a cook for her. Leela had been to that house before. I can't figure out what she really wants. I could only greet Emily first. I hurried over. When I arrived, my mom sighed and went inside. The table was piled high with gifts. I felt a bit uneasy. We used to be together for such a long time. Every time she came to my house, she never brought anything. Sometimes I worry my mom thinks she lacks manners. She even secretly bought some fruit downstairs. She said it was brought by her. Later, after I broke up with my boyfriend, my mom brought up this matter. She said she knew the gift was from me, but she didn't care. As long as I'm happy, that's enough. But now we're apart. We've both gotten married. She has become more measured instead. I'm cold towards her. She comes to me with matters. Why does she have to disturb my mom? I mentioned this last time. We are no longer in a relationship. Let's not meet again. Her expression darkened. Her eyes reddened, but she held back her tears. Jason, you still love me. You clearly said you would love me for a lifetime. I think I made myself very clear that day, but she keeps saying this. I started to feel a bit annoyed. I tugged at my tie. Is there anything else? If not, then hurry and leave. She suddenly cried. She handed me an ultrasound report to look at. I found it in Michael's drawer. It's his ex-girlfriend's test results. He was still in contact with his ex-girlfriend last year. He even got her pregnant and then had an abortion. It's really upsetting. Jason, you know I have OCD. I really can't accept this kind of thing. After all this, it turns out my fiancé cheated and came to me to complain. But what does that have to do with me? I'm not a mediator. I'm getting more and more impatient, just drinking tea by myself. I can't be bothered to pay attention to her. Leela couldn't stand my cold attitude. She stood up excitedly. She snatched the cup from my hand. Jason, please don't do this. Why don't you say something? Seeing that I still wouldn't speak, she threw her Gucci wallet on the ground. She shouted, I don't want designer brands. I don't want money. I just want you. I watched her lose control, and my heart grew more and more anxious. I never noticed how irrational she was before. If your man is cheating, you should confront him. What does that have to do with me, Leela? I'll say it again. If you don't leave, I'll call the police. And all this junk on the table, take it all away. My mom doesn't need it. Don't bother her anymore in the future. I told the aunt right in front of her. If she comes again next time, just kick her out. Otherwise, call the police. She knelt on the ground. She cried so hard she couldn't speak. Jason, you really not want me anymore. You and that woman are just in a business marriage. There won't be any feelings at all. I don't know why. Just hearing her mention Emily makes me angry. Maybe I feel she doesn't deserve it. Someone like her has no right to say anything bad about Emily. At that time, I had just come home. I was full of the habits from outside and completely out of sync with that family. But Emily doesn't mind at all. She straightforwardly introduces me as her fiancé to those friends. She even says it's because I used to deliver takeout, and I know every road in the city. When she says these things, there's not a hint of disdain. On the contrary, she seems particularly proud. After we got together, she loves to ride my electric bike to the night market for snacks. She asks me to get her handmade trinkets from street vendors as gifts. She could have kept her distance from me, living our own lives, but she is willing to get to know me. She lets me into her world, and she also makes an effort to integrate into my life. Compared to the current Leela, it's simply a world of difference. I pushed Leela out the door. No matter how she begged and pleaded, I stood my ground. Fortunately, she didn't cause any more trouble for my mom. I also slowly forgot about that person. The day before Emily and I went abroad, I kept receiving calls from a stranger. I didn't answer. It kept ringing nonstop. Emily urged me to answer it. It might be something important. I answered it. I didn't expect it to be Leela. I blocked her after the last gathering. Who knew she would call again today with a different number? Jason, I'm getting married tomorrow. Actually, our parents have been urging us to hold the wedding since the year before last. But I kept dragging it out and didn't agree, because I still have feelings for you. Emily raised her eyebrows and smiled at me. She turned to leave, but I firmly held her back, not letting her go. Oh, congratulations. Goodbye. Wait, I haven't finished speaking. I love you. I've always loved only you. You have to remember this. No matter who I marry, my wedding dress will only be worn for you. I suddenly felt unwell. Leela, don't treat me like this. You can marry whoever you want. It has nothing to do with me. What you say only makes me feel worse. A low sob came from across the room. Leela's voice was a bit hoarse. If I hadn't let go back then, you wouldn't have the good life you have now. Why do you blame everything on me? You say I left you for money, but you should ask your wife. Which woman would want to live a hard life with a useless man? This is the reality. Jason, you just don't love me enough. If you really loved me, you would work harder. You wouldn't be satisfied with things as they are now. As soon as she finished speaking, Emily picked up the phone. I've never seen her look so serious. Miss Leela, I'm sorry. I am capable of supporting myself. Even without relying on my family, I can be a teacher. I can start a tutoring class to teach languages and art. In short, I don't need to depend on a man to live, and I won't measure love with material things. During this time, I won't hold it against you. It's me who is being accommodating. But if you disturb our lives again in the future, don't blame me for being rude. Emily has always been gentle. I thought she would never turn against anyone. Her reaction left me stunned. She hung up the phone. She shot me an angry glance. That's when I finally understood. I quickly said, I'm sorry, my wife. It's my fault, but you have to believe me. Everything from the past is behind us. Now and in the future, you are the only one in my heart. I swear it. She smiled. If you don't believe me, do you think you can still sit here and chat with me? Honey, I never listen to what others say. You understand? Of course I understand. Actions are more important than empty talk. So I will double my love and care for her. Back when we got married, I was busy taking over the company's affairs. I didn't even have time to rest all day. I couldn't accompany Emily on the trip. This time we traveled abroad for a month. It's like making up for the honeymoon trip I owed her. The day before returning home, a surprise visitor arrived at the company. The assistant stood at the door, looking troubled. Michael was behind him. I heard this person has been waiting for me downstairs for a whole month. He caused quite a bit of trouble for the company. Mr. Michael, what do you need from me? He touched the gold ring on his ring finger. With a flattering smile, he said, it's about the shop rent. Business is tough right now. We're old acquaintances. After all, could you give me a discount? I couldn't help but frown. These specific matters are handled by designated personnel. You can just talk to the department manager about it. It's not really convenient for me to get involved. He immediately sulked. Isn't the whole building your property? As long as you say the word, it should be resolved. I pressed my aching temples. Are we that familiar? If you were a sensible person, you shouldn't have come to find me. He got anxious when he saw I wasn't willing to help. Jason, you're still upset about Leela choosing me over you, aren't you? If others find out that the heir of Williams lost to me, let's see how you hold your head up high. Honestly, this is enough. I shouldn't have wasted my time with him. Just have security throw him out. Not long after, his store was exposed for selling counterfeit goods. Some products even contained carcinogens. Many people blocked his store demanding compensation. He was so scared he didn't even dare to open the door, let alone spread rumors and cause trouble. Due to a delay of a month, by the time I finished work and got home, it was already 11 o'clock at night. Downstairs at the company, a disheveled person suddenly blocked my way. It startled me when she walked closer. I recognized it was Leela. She smelled strongly of alcohol. The makeup on my face has also smudged. Leela has Hashimoto's thyroiditis. When we were together before, I often reminded her to drink less alcohol. She always thought I was nagging. At the wedding of a classmate that day, I saw Michael encouraging her to drink with her classmates. He even poured her a full glass himself. Now she has married someone who doesn't nag her. She should be happy about that. But why does she look so sad, Jason? I've had a bit too much to drink. I took a step back. Call your husband to come pick you up. She was both crying and laughing. He doesn't even know where to go now, I called him. Either he doesn't answer, or he complains that I'm meddling too much. You never used to raise your voice at me. Even when I called you in the middle of the night, you would stay up all night chatting with me. Not a single complaint. Why does Michael treat me this way, Jason? I really regret it. I really regret it. If only there were regret medicine in the world. That's how Leela walked out from my company's entrance that day. I can't remember anymore. After getting home, I told Emily about this. She also seemed very tired. She said, maybe it's just a case of fate bringing enemies together. I don't know when I can get rid of it. After she finished speaking, she yawned. She clearly just slept all afternoon. I found it a bit strange. Suddenly, I thought of something. I asked her, honey, when was the last time you had your period? She stared at me in surprise. She didn't understand why I suddenly asked this. You mean we didn't dare to continue our conversation, worried that we would end up being happy for nothing? I quickly canceled the work arrangements for the next day, took her for a checkup. When the doctor confirmed that she was pregnant and that she was in good health, I almost cried out of excitement. My lifelong dream has been to have a complete family, to happily live the life of a family of 3. This dream has finally come true. When I walked to the garden downstairs of the hospital, I couldn't help but spin her around a few times. I said to her, thank you, wife. She smiled happily and said, congratulations, you're going to be a dad. We were happily playing together, not noticing Leela not far away. She was wearing a hospital gown, with a hospital wristband on her wrist. She kept staring at us. She walked over to us. I instinctively shielded Emily behind me. This action seemed to make her very sad. Jason, I was hospitalized due to illness. Drinking caused a stomach bleed. I almost had a serious incident. She stared at my face, as if she wanted to remember every reaction on my face. I really don't care at all. Oh, that's none of my business. She looked at me sadly. You really not care about me at all now. You used to always remind me to take care of my health. I held Emily's hand tightly behind me. I said to her without hesitation, I used to care about you. You found it annoying. Now you've got a husband who doesn't nag you. You should be happy about that. Finally, someone understands me, who doesn't mind my chatter. I've started a family, and I'm about to become a father. Leela, if you keep pestering like this, it's inappropriate. After saying that, Leela's legs went weak. She collapsed directly onto the ground. She looked utterly despondent. I gently supported Emily's shoulders and led her away. I didn't pay her any more attention. The next time I heard from her was on the day of my child's full moon celebration. A former classmate who came to the celebration told me Leela got drunk. She accidentally fell down the stairs. She injured her lumbar spine. She has been lying in bed for several months. Michael brought his mistress home. He said he wanted a divorce. As a result, her father got so angry that he fainted on the spot. I looked at the baby in the crib. I smiled gently. I didn't say anything more. I can't worry about that. As long as I'm doing well, that's enough.